Kingsman up at the top of the picture. He's going a great race and could get the bronze. Polyansky, Beltrush, look at the lunge. Kingsman gets a bronze.
2 minutes, 0.48 seconds. That is how long it took for Paul Kingsman to become a national hero for New Zealand. In 1988, Paul won the Olympic bronze medal for the 200-meter men's backstroke in Seoul, South Korea, capping off a 15-year journey.
I was 9 years old, and so saw the Olympics and remember very, very vividly. Our family was on a vacation. I was in a motel, and it was at the school holidays. So we were right up north of New Zealand, and I saw the swimming in the Montreal Olympics. And once I saw that, that was exactly where I wanted to go. I had no idea of how long it was going to take to get there. I had no idea of the money involved. As a 9-year-old kid, I didn't care about the money involved. That was my parents' job. So that's when I started really earnestly. I actually wrote it down on a little piece of paper when I was 9 years old that I wanted to go to the Olympics and win a medal. And I hid it in my mattress. And so I knew every night when I got home, when I was just dog tired and you're stinking of chlorine and you're just miserable, just dying to get to sleep because you're so tired. This is many years down the track now. I knew that in my mattress was a little piece of paper saying exactly what I wanted to do.
Paul knows more than anyone the importance of avoiding distractions.
And in burst this guy from Radio New Zealand. He was one of the same guys that spoke with me in the morning. And he came over to me and he said, "You did it." And I said, "Thanks." And he said, "That was the greatest swim I've ever seen." I said, "Thanks." He said, "Do you know how close the fourth guy was to you?" I said, "I don't care." And he said, "Well, I'll tell you." He said, "The fourth guy was 4/100ths of a second behind you." And so in a split second, lives were literally changed. About 2-3 months later, I noticed something that I hadn't seen between the first time I watched it and then, and it was that the guy who came fourth to me on his last 2 strokes, on his third to last stroke he saw me. On his last stroke, because he had seen me, he looked at me again, and it cost him.
After winning the 1988 Olympic bronze medal, Paul became a national hero, and he started letting distractions into his life.
In 1990, I should have won the gold medal down in New Zealand. I held the Commonwealth record. I was a favourite. 6,000 people were at the pool that night. Many of them had come just to see me win, supposedly, and I came second. A Canadian guy won. And that was a tough one to get over because of the TV commercials that I'd had. Once people see you on TV, they perceive you as public property. I'd be out at a restaurant or walking down the street and somebody would stop me and they'd say, "Hey, fantastic job that you did for the country. Pity about the swim." Or somebody would stop me several months later and say, "Hey, you just did a fantastic job for the country. It looks like you put on about 20 pounds now." I mean, people you don't even know. they just think it's their right to be able to say that.
After Paul retired in 1990, Paul and his wife Alicia moved to California, where he struggled at first adjusting to his new life.
So it took a little while to get adjusted to life after swimming. I did retire in 1990, that was it, and it was very hard. And it hits you that this is the last time I'm going to race. This is the last time I'm going to feel like this. And if you don't kid yourself, you also realize this is the greatest shape I'll ever be in throughout the rest of my life. And then you kid yourself. You go through this process that I'm going to work out every day, and which lasts for about 2 days. And then you say to yourself, "I'm not going to eat any junk food," which lasts for about 4 hours. and then you say, "Well, I'll work out 3 times a week. I'm going to keep it," and it just doesn't happen because life changes. And all of a sudden, you've had a very disciplined regimen, but you've also had accountability. During the Olympic build-up, or when I was swimming my NC2A swimming, you're with a team. They'll hold you very accountable. I was team captain when I was up here at Cal, so I was accountable the whole time with our team. But all of a sudden, when you retire, no one's holding you accountable now. No one really cares what you're eating or anything like that. So that takes a little while to adjust to and to recognize, okay, I don't want to get out of some of these habits, and you do. And then it's a fight to get back into some of those habits, and that takes a while.
Now, Paul uses his life experience to help motivate others. He speaks at corporate events about the importance of avoiding distractions in life.
And people, if there's one thing that I learned from that, it's this: if you fail to prioritize your time, other people will. Yeah, all the heads nodding, you get it. If we fail to prioritize our time, other people will.
In addition, Paul has taken a pastoral role at 360 Church of Petaluma, which helps keep him grounded in his life.
At the next Olympics, you will see people rush out. You'll see people look like they've got it all together at the end of the first lap. The problem is no one's handing out the medals then. Doesn't really matter. It's whoever gets their hand on that wall first at the end. And so it is very similar to that with our walk of faith. It is how we finish. We all start really with a lot of things that we don't have any say over, parents, family, but it does matter how we finish. And fortunately, Scripture is very, very clear, very clear.
Now, Paul has some words of wisdom for anyone who is struggling with distractions in life.
I'm seeing people just get distracted when they've got so much ability, so much talent, and they're failing to focus, and focus is a habit. It's like a muscle. And a lot of people think, okay, the first time I practice this, the first time I get good at this out of the gate, I've got to focus for an hour. And it's not so much the volume of focus, but it's the repetition of it. It's the frequency. And so if it becomes, instead of thinking, I've got to focus for this 1 hour this morning, I would say, don't worry about that. Focus for 15 minutes for the next 5 mornings. And go 5 mornings straight with focusing for 15 minutes at whatever time you set, but on a particular issue. It's like doing sit-ups. I used to do 1,000 sit-ups when I was training for Soul. And people would look at me and say, 1,000 sit-ups? But it started at sets of 10. Then it went to sets of 20. Then it went to sets of 50. It wasn't just sit down one day and punch out 1,000 sit-ups. It was an incremental build-up. And so again, that feeds into a challenge with this culture is one of immediate gratification. But the flip side of that is if you don't learn how to persevere, you're going to bump into a wall pretty quickly or pretty soon that you're going to really struggle to get over. And it's one that you can get over, but you won't have trained yourself to just persevere. And all of a sudden, you're just going to give up and move on and miss out on all that potential that could have been realized if you had just stuck with it and persevered. Like I said, it took me 13 years to win an Olympic medal. It came down to a 2-minute swim for 4/100ths of a second. So it is worth persevering and not getting distracted.
This video was produced by the Santa Rosa Junior College J55 Digital Media Journalism class. I would like to thank Paul Kingsman for taking the time for this interview.